Okay, Rachel, you can go ahead.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll officially introduce myself. I'm Rachel Eldridge, and I've been doing just various fitness activities for a really long time. But I got into yoga and Tai Chi and some of these more mindful practices since I guess around 2015. I hurt my hand and I couldn't do weightlifting, so that's how I got into it. Is I had to do more gentle exercises and was looking for the stress relief aspect of it as well. So that's why I got into that. So as far as the format of the class, I guess I'll talk a bit about what Tai Chi is. It's a series of slow, focused body movements that were originally designed for self-defense. And it is a martial art, but we're not going to be doing anything self-defense with it. It's very relaxing. It's appropriate for any fitness level. And we're going to do all our movements from a seated position. And each one of these little series of movements, it's called a form. And with practice, we're going to learn a variety of forms, and at a point when we're comfortable, we can make one form flow into another. And Tai Chi connects the body and mind in a way that can be meditative. And there will be a short guided meditation at the end. This is a good way to practice, just to focus on the present. And this will offer us a break from every other bit of stress in our lives. So I want us to stress that we don't want to stress about what we're doing here. We're going to repeat these movements over time and they'll eventually stick. So I don't want anyone to feel stressed out about that. Ask questions if you need clarification. And I will say there are certain positions that we kind of always come back to and center in as we're doing this. So I'll go over some of those in the beginning, just so we know where we're going to come back to when we do some of the movements. But also nothing should, sorry, this is a disclaimer, nothing should be uncomfortable or hurt. So if anything hurts or feels uncomfortable, please don't do that, or make the movement smaller. If we're reaching up, don't reach as far. We have to make it very comfortable for ourselves. So if twisting around or something hurts, then we don't want to twist as far. We don't want to push ourselves to the point of any kind of pain. So I'll kind of set the parameters for this. So we're going to work as if we're in a small square room and we're seated in the back of it at the center of the wall. So when I speak about the corners in front of us at like 10 and 2 o'clock, we're going to kind of think of things as if we're kind of centered in it. And some movements we'll reach back, and sort of that would be to the 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock position. So those are some of our directions that we're going to be talking about. And the places that we keep coming back to, we'll start with the easiest one, and that is with just sitting with our feet on the floor. I'm sitting in an office chair. You can sit in a dining chair. Armrests can get in the way, but it's possible to do this even if you have armrests that are on your chair. So I just sit with my feet both on the floor comfortably, and my hands are about mid-thigh on my legs, sitting on my lap with my fingertips pointing to the wall in front of me. And so a lot of our starting positions will be just sitting with our hands here, and then we'll move from that point. Okay. Another one of our starting positions, and this one's a little trickier one, but it will be okay once we get it, is holding a ball. So some of our movements are going to be pretending like we're holding a ball. So something about the size of a volleyball or a soccer ball. And what we do is we're sort of cradling it, our bottom hand. I have my right hand on top. So I'm sitting with my elbows bent. I have my right hand on top of this ball in front of me, our invisible ball. My fingertips are pointing to the wall on my left. So it's like my hand isn't stiff. It's very comfortable sitting and resting on the ball. And the other hand is resting on the bottom of the ball, just a little bit above my lap. Does that make sense? Like where we're resting and holding an invisible volleyball. Do you all feel like
Yes.
Okay. And so that's something that we'll come back to. So we'll do a movement from the ball with the right hand on top. And when we finish that movement, our left hand will be on top and then the right hand is on the bottom. So there's a lot where we alternate and we'll begin with one hand on top and end with the other hand on top. So that's one of the ones that we keep coming back to. And that way, if anyone feels lost, we're going to come back to that ball and you can jump right back in the next time we do a movement. Another motion that we do very often in here will be, I call it the stop sign hand, and that's just where we reach our hand at shoulder level in front of us with our palm toward, like our palm is facing the wall directly in front of us, usually at like the 12 o'clock position. But if it's not at 12 o'clock, I'll tell you if we're pointing it across the room diagonally at, 2 o'clock or 10 o'clock. But stop sign hand is something that I often refer to in some of our movements. And so that's another one that we will keep coming back to. So do you have any questions about that? If not, I think we'll just start doing some of these forms with those things in mind. And so
Yeah, I think we can go ahead and get started unless anybody wants to unmute and ask a question.
Okay. So our first form, the names get increasingly interesting. The first form is the commencing form. And this one will start, this one with our hands in our laps. And our fingertips are toward the wall in front of us. Now we're going to raise our hands up and our arms up, and we straighten our elbows, and our wrist is going to come up first, and our hands are just going to hang comfortably. And we're going to raise them up to just above the level that our head is at, but raising our arms, they're in front of us, almost like how someone sleepwalks or something, but our hands are up. And then we bring our hands back down, and our fingertips are at, it's kind of almost the stop sign hand thing. Our fingertips are going to be the last thing that come back down to our laps. Does that make sense? And then when we come back to our laps, we raise them back up again, wrist first, not our hands. We let our hands hang free with our fingers just hanging. And we come back above the head level, and then we have our palms facing the wall, and we come back down to our laps. And as we do this, we take a breath in on the way up, and I'm at the top, and then hands come down, and then our breath is out. And so this is one of the first ones that we do, where we raise our hands up, wrist goes up first, and then fingertips are the last thing on the way down. Does that one make sense? Does that seem like I've described that in a way that makes sense to everyone?
Yeah, can you tell me again, what is it called when you have your arms up with your hands? What form?
This is the commencing form. So we're raising our hands up and down, just doing these little sweeping motions up and down. So that, yeah, that's the commencing form. And if you all feel comfortable with that one, we'll move on to another one. And I'll start with some of the easier ones. We'll build up.
Okay.
So the next one is called broadening one's chest. And we start with this is another one where we start with our hands on our lap, fingertips pointing toward the wall in front of us. Our hands are down and neutral. And then we raise our arms until they're just higher than our head level. And then we put our palms facing each other once our hands are are overhead. And then our arms come out palm up to the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock position at shoulder height. Does that make sense? So like our arms are straight out and we're holding a tray on each hand, level to the sides of us. Does that make sense? And then they come back up to where palms are facing each other and then back down toward our lap.
Okay, so question.
Sure.
When you say you're raising your arms up, are they fully extended in front of you coming up? Or,
So I would raise them if I'm trying to get the clock orientation because I'm raising them up vertically. However, they're not straight over my head. They are, if we're doing a side clock, it would be at about between 1 and 2 o'clock.
okay,
So does that make sense? Is that?
yeah,
I don't want to confuse the clocks facing different ways, but it would be about 2 o'clock, but they're straight out in front of me, palms facing each other. Then they open up and they are directly at my sides at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock.
at
Are-
shoulder level,
Yes, at shoulder level.
with your palms facing the ceiling.
Yes.
Okay,
So they come back together, not all the way touching, like as about the space of a ball, and then come back down to our lap slowly. So hands come back down to the lap. So I'll tell you at what point I'm where. So if I'm at my lap right now, so we're gonna take a breath in, come up to that 1 or 2 o'clock position. Then the palms face each other here. That's when they rotate. And then they come outward to our sides into that 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock palm up position. And then slowly don't hang out there too long, then start coming back up overhead. Palms rotate to where they're facing downward and then come back down to our laps. So we just flow through this. So as soon as they're down, we start raising them back up again. And we do this 3 or 4 times. So if we raise them back up and they're overhead at about 2 o'clock, then we raise them back, then we lower them back down to where they're at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock with our palms toward the ceiling. And as soon as we feel like we've reached that point, we start slowly raising them back up, palms coming, facing each other, and then turn them and come back down to our laps. Does that make sense now? And I figured this will probably be a conversation, and if there's a way to describe it better, then please tell me and let me know.
I love your clock idea. And so maybe when you were talking about that 2 o'clock position, you might call it a perpendicular clock.
Okay.
So if you have a perpendicular clock, you're now pointing at 2 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah, because I have like the clock orientation, but sometimes like I'm at the center of the clock and it's horizontal, and sometimes there's a vertical clock and then
Yeah.
there needs to be another one kind of sideways there. So, okay, so perpendicular, that's what
So your regular clock and your perpendicular clock.
okay. Thank you.
This other form, this is like when I was 3 years old and I'd say, look what I did.
Yeah.
And my arms would go like that. So that's how I'll think of it.
Yeah, I have little names of different things. Like I have little things that I call pieces of these two that helps me to remember them. But so I'll share those as we come to them. So the next one is going to be called Dancing with Rainbows. And it is very similar, like partly similar to this one, but I'll describe it. So we're going to have our hands on our lap again. And we're going to start, our right hand is going to come up and go into that 3 o'clock position as we did before, exact shoulder level, palm up. Our left hand, however, as we bring this one out to our side, is going to come up overhead, like straight overhead. And then our elbow bends and our fingers are going to point down and they're going to be very close to our ear. We don't want to touch our heads, but it's like the letter, I don't know, it's like a letter C or like a steep curve. So our left hand is up over our heads and our palms, like if we could touch our ear from here if we moved any closer. Does that make sense? While the other palm is facing the ceiling.
The hand that's by your ear. So you're bending your elbow. So your elbow is pointing at 9 o'clock.
Elbow is pointing toward the ceiling. Left elbow pointing to 12 o'clock. And our hand is above our head. Like basically our arm could rest on top of our head and touch our ear, but we want to keep it hovering just a little.
Oh,
The forearm,
Wait a
the
minute.
forearm is bent over her head.
Yeah,
Okay.
forearm parallel with the floor
Yeah.
over our head.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. So your
And
arm is
then-
going over your head and your left hand is over your right ear.
Correct.
Okay.
And the
Pointing
left hand
down.
is facing up. Yeah, their fingertips are pointing down, forearm parallel to the floor, elbow is at 12 o'clock. And
And
the right hand is palm up at 3 o'clock position, straight out to our side. Now
Okay.
we do this, and then we just switch arms. So then as the left hand extends, our right hand comes to our left ear in
okay.
that position. So
And this is Dancing with Rainbows.
Dancing with Rainbows, and we keep our head straight. We don't want to tilt our head. And so as we breathe in, we extend on one side, and then we breathe out and we extend to the other side. This will get easier once we learn these, because we'll do a lot of the same ones over and over. So then we'll just slowly switch, and with our breath, it's not a quick movement, it's a very slow with the in breath. And then at the end of that breath, we kind of land where we're going. So with the hand over the ear, the palm facing the ceiling. Does that make sense? So each of these movements happens, like each one is like a breath in, we move. Like at this point, I'm moving my right hand off my left ear, straightening that arm as I bend the left arm, and it's covering my right ear again. Does that?
So they're all flowing together in motion at the same time.
Yeah, the hand, like as one hand is straightening, the other hand is the other arm is bending.
Mhm.
So it's this flow with our breath. So after we initially understand what each arm is doing separately, we do it at the same time. There's kind of a yin and yang, a up and down that happens simultaneously. A lot of times one hand will be pointed upward while the other's pointed downward.
Mm-hmm.
And we just want to make that flow happen, and it becomes kind of a continuous flow with our breath, or as we're doing this together, just sort of at an average pace of one's breath.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start with another one. We have somewhere we're holding a ball. So let's see, we'll go to the holding a ball position I was talking about, where we have our right hand on top and it's resting, it's relaxed, our fingers aren't stiff, and our arms are holding this ball. My right fingertips are pointing to the wall to my left, and my left fingertips on my left hand are pointing to the wall to my right, but it's like I'm holding a ball and kind of cradling it, and my hands are very relaxed holding it. I mean, it's about the size of a volleyball. So from this, the easiest form to do from here is to start with the open form holding ball. And that's where we turn our bodies, and let's say the center of that ball is what we're going to focus on. The center of that ball would turn to about the 2 o'clock position if we move to our right. So if my right hand is on top, I'm going to follow that elbow over. We're going to go toward our right side, twist at the waist, and the middle of that ball will be facing the corner of the wall at about 2 o'clock. So once we're here, we switch hands, which one is on top, which one is on the bottom. So now the left hand is on top, we're still holding that ball, and then we rotate our bodies past the center, facing the left-hand corner. So facing the left-hand corner, the center of the ball is looking at the 2 o'clock position. Does that make sense? So then, and this also would follow a breath, like a slow, deliberate breath. So then we would switch our arms again, and we do each of these about 4 times. And then we'd go back, turn our bodies back to the right with the center of the wall going to 2 o'clock. So we're going from 2 o'clock to 10 o'clock with the center of the ball, like where the center point of it would be facing that wall, that corner of the wall. So, and then we would go.
As you're switching the hands that are holding the ball, are you just kind of going in an arc, or is there anything special you're doing there?
I try to, everything that we do, we want to flow it kind of gracefully, but I just, they kind of go past each other in the middle, and there are some movements where we do, so we kind of swoop our hands or kind of make it a little more flowy, that kind of thing. But in this situation, we just kind of glide them past each other and switch hands.
Okay.
So we don't have to go around or anything like that. We just switch them that way. Does that one make sense? Do you all feel? Okay. So another one that we will do from holding the ball. So I'll say my right hand is on top of the ball again. This one will be called the single whip. And my right hand is on top, the left hand is on the bottom. The top hand is going to form what they call it's like a bird's beak. Now I'll describe that. Our fingers point downward and our thumb touches our fingertips. And then we reach our hand forward. So like we're going to drop a penny in front of our feet or something. Like our hand is straight out in front of us at 12 o'clock, fingertips down, thumb against our fingertips. While that is happening, and it's at shoulder height, while that's happening, we do a stop sign at 9 o'clock with our left hand. And we want our nose to face basically our middle finger. So we're looking toward that hand, nose points to middle finger as we have that hand. So we do that. And then when we come back to the ball, the left hand is on the top of the ball. So we come back slowly and the left hand is on top and the right hand is on the bottom of the ball. Okay, does that make sense? Did you
I need that one again.
Okay. So now my left hand is on top. Do you want me to start with the right one again, or do you want to?
This is fun.
Okay, so left hand is on top, right hand is on the bottom. The right hand is going to reach straight forward at shoulder height, but we're going to have our fingers pointed down like we're holding something, like we're holding a penny between our thumb and our fingers. It's like a little bird's beak, and it's pointed down.
Your left arm?
Yes, the left arm, while the right arm does the stop sign where our palm is facing the wall beside us. So our right palm is facing the wall to our right, extended straight, but hand is upright, fingers pointing toward ceiling. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay.
And we turn our head toward the stop sign hand. So our head is pointed. We want our nose to line up with that middle finger if we're looking for a specific point. So we get like a little bit of neck movement there, and we're looking at that middle finger. And then when we come back to the ball, that top hand, like slowly, and now I'm back to the ball. So now the right hand is on top and the left hand is on the bottom.
Right.
Does that seem clear? So, and we'll do it at this pace where I slowly reach out with both hands. So one forward, one to the side. I slowly turn my head, and now I'm in the stop sign, nose facing finger, like middle finger on left hand, and my bird's beak is extended. But we don't really stay long. We want to do our breathing and follow that. And then we come back into our ball very slowly, come back, and then we're at the ball. So it's taking longer as I'm explaining it, but when we would routinely do these movements, it would kind of flow with in and out breath.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So it takes longer to describe it and get it set up and figure out what one arm is doing while the other one is also moving. But once we get it, we'll be able to just breathe into it as we extend, breathe, Yeah. So it will make more sense as we learn these and they become familiar. I'm trying to think. Let's see. I'm looking at the time to see how many more we may want to do. Do you all feel like it'll be overwhelming to do a couple more, or do you want to focus on the ones we've done and try to make those flow? What do you think would be the most useful?
I think I'm at about my limit for,
Yeah, let's see if we can make them flow.
Okay,
Maybe you can demonstrate what it looks like in kind of the pace, and
okay,
then we'll work on it together.
okay. So I think one of the better ones that we can kind of flow together, because when we get several, we'll just go through a bigger list of them. But let's go from the open form holding ball into the single whip, because that's two different ones where we come back to our ball, and that way we'll be in the same place together at the beginning and end of each movement. Does that make sense? So we'll start, let's put our right hand on top of the ball and our left hand on the bottom of the ball. So at this point, we'll rotate to our right so that the center of the ball is at 2 o'clock. So I'm slowly rotating. Here I am. I switch my hands and then slowly turn my body. And I also use my feet a little bit to make sure that I'm centered and on balance. And I'm at 10 o'clock. So I'll switch hands. I flow again, back across toward the right, center of the ball, facing the 2 o'clock corner of the ball. Switch hands, left hand is on top. And then I'm slowly going to the left corner at 10 o'clock. So then I recenter. And it's at this point that I take my top hand in the bird's beak, reach it out in front of me as I'm reaching my right hand out, stop sign hand, look toward it to my right, and then slowly bring it back. The stop sign hand is on top of the ball. So then I reach the top hand, which is my right hand, forward as I am reaching my other hand out to stop sign position. My nose is facing, my nose is pointing to middle finger on the left-hand side, and then I come back to the ball with that left hand on top. So then I'll do this again where I have my bird's beak with my left hand, reach it forward as my other palm comes out facing the right-hand wall, and I'm turning my head here. So it's facing that finger, and then back to the ball with the right hand on top. And then one more time where we have the bird's beak with the right hand coming out as our left hand makes the stop sign hand and our nose is pointing at that middle fingertip. And then slowly coming back to the ball. Did that make sense? Were you all able to, did you follow that movement? We just come back to the ball and then we can switch to any other movement that's ball based when we do that movement and come back. And I try to end on my left side so I can start any new thing with my right hand on the top of the ball. And that way it's a little easier to transition and easy to stay on the same page. So if we do an even number and come back to the ball, usually the right hand is ready to start the next thing. And I find that an easier way to do it than kind of alternating which hand you start with, especially starting out.
Yeah.
Did that feel okay?
Yeah,
Okay,
that was great.
okay. And there's some more complicated ones, but I want us to feel comfortable and I don't want us to be overwhelmed. I want us to feel good about the ones that we have learned. And these are good, even if you just take a minute. And I know sometimes I just try to slow my breath down when I'm stressed out, but these are a good way to like get your whole body involved with slowing down your breath, with dealing with a stressful moment, with that kind of thing. So hopefully it'll be a tool and you can kind of build on it. It'll be something that'll be helpful for you in different situations. And it also is a good way to stretch too. Once we do some of these, we really get our shoulders moving. We, do some good gentle spinal, twisting our spine when we're turning. Those are all really good for us as well.
Can you do the look I did form again?
I'm sorry, what?
The look what I did form, the raising his chest or whatever it's called.
Broadening one's chest, yes. So we'll start with our hands on our laps. And then we raise our hands, wrists come up first while our hands kind of hang there very loosely. And when they get just like over our head level at the perpendicular 2 o'clock, we put our palms face each other, and then they open out to 9 and 3 o'clock. So they're at shoulder height to the sides, palms facing the ceiling. And then slowly with our breath, they come up, our palms are facing each other overhead. And then we come back to our laps. So is that making more sense? So as we breathe in, we raise our hands up, we breathe out, they come to the sides, palms facing the ceiling. We breathe in, they come back up, palms facing each other, and then we breathe out as our hands come back toward our laps. So there are lots of pieces, and I don't expect everyone to be able to think about how they're breathing while they're doing this, but I'm saying it just so that it's there. Once it becomes muscle memory, then that can be the next thing that you can focus on. I don't expect you to have all these pieces all together at the same time.
Right.
But I want to include it so that it's not just something new that, you know, you have to factor in once you get the hang of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel good about the ones that we did so far? Does anyone have any questions about those?
No, I think we're good. Can
Okay.
you demonstrate just at your pace that you would normally go, kind of those first 2 or 3, the broadening the chest and the dancing with rainbows?
Yeah. So with broadening the chest, I'll try to talk through it, but I may skip some of the detail, but I'll tell you where I am on it. So if my hands are in my lap, I will, okay, let me shake it out. I do that between sometimes.
Well, go ahead and do it without just just maybe say, breathe in, breathe out, and just kind of do it. Those of us that have some vision can kind of see.
Okay.
And we can just kind of follow with your explanation of breathe in, breathe out kind of thing.
Okay. So broadening one's chest, my hands are on my lap. So I'm going to raise my hands up, come out. They're fully extended, then back up, facing each other, and then down toward my lap. And it depends on how fast you're breathing. Like I feel like I'm going a little fast. So up, together, out, back up, hands face each other, and then down. And with dances with rainbows, similarly, I would have my hand, the one hand up, the other hand around my ear. So in breath and switch, the other arm's fully extended, other hand around my ear. Switch, and that's just a very flowy breath thing. And then switch, and then switch. So it speeds up, but it's never really fast. It's at the pace of a normal breath, like each piece of the movement, if that makes sense. So we get, and with dancing with rainbows, there's just, you go to the left in breath, you go to the right out breath, or either way. That one, it doesn't matter because you're doing the same movement and mirroring it on each side. But but that's about the speed of it. Do you all have any interest in, I line up a meditation, and sometimes I have that as a way to kind of chill out at the end, and I have a short 10-minute meditation that I can play. I have some that I do myself, but if you all are interested in doing a little mindfulness meditation, I have that. But if you all have stuff to do, because I know we started a little late, so we've gone, it's 12:47. What do you all think?
If you have time, that'd be great.
Okay.
Can I just ask you a question before we go to that?
Oh, of course.
How many have we done so far today?
So we did our commencing form. We did 1, 2, 3. We did technically 5.
Oh, yeah, see. I'm going to have to review the YouTube, I think, to remember. Can you just name them again?
So the commencing form is just raising our hand, or that was the wrist first raising up, coming down.
Right. Okay.
Then we did broadening one's chest. That was another hands and lap where we had our arms to the sides and our palms facing up. They come back overhead and then back down. And
Okay,
then dancing with rainbows is where we had one palm facing up, the other around our ears, and then we switched that one. So
Okay.
those are the hands in the lap based ones. And then we had the open form holding ball that we did. And then we
Right.
switch our hands, rotate the ball. And then we did the single whip, which was the bird's beak and the stop sign hand.
right. Okay,
And we would switch that. So that's
okay.
that was the Speedy Reader's Digest version of what we did.
Yeah,
That's
it's fine.
great. That's great.
I was just afraid that I was forgetting what we did at first. Yeah.
And
Okay,
if you all want me to email you the notes that I have about this too, because I've written down what my descriptions. And if that would be useful, I can email the ones that we did today. And that way you could kind of have that to refer to as well. And that may also help trigger some of the context, some of the conversation we've had as well, or may resonate differently than just hearing it. So I don't know, I can email any of that you all want to.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Because yeah, I can just copy the ones we worked on into an email. Okay. And if I'm allowed to in the Zoom meeting, I will share, I'm going to share my screen just so I can share the sound of,
Yes.
let's see.
Richard, do you need to make her host to share her screen?
Hold on one moment.
Okay. The little share screen thing is up, so I can give it a, let's see.
Yeah, I was about to double check that you were allowed to. Go ahead if you can, and if you can't, then let me know and I'll
I
check it.
clicked it and it said host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, hold on one second.
Okay, we may need to unrecord at this point because we'd be playing a another person's YouTube video, and I don't want them to be.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Hold on one second, then I'll stop the recording.
Okay.